Hi all, good evening. So welcome to the third day of Foundation Program for Engineering Aspirants. So let's begin the session. So I think you all can see my screen and also I'm audible. Yeah, okay. So today we'll be discussing some topics from mathematics. So we are mostly concentrating on two areas. First one is linear programming and the second one is vectors. You have studied in your school to do the problems and all. So today we'll be seeing the applications of linear programming and vectors. So let's start the session. I know you have an idea, or you all have an idea about what is linear programming. So we'll be discussing the definition, how this linear programming is being used in our daily life, what are the applications of linear programming, or which all fields are utilizing linear programming. So let's start with the definition of linear programming. What is linear programming? It's the simplest way to perform optimization. Linear programming is one among the different ways to perform the optimization. The main idea is that it is one among the simplest method. So what is meant by optimization? We are using this term optimization. So what is mean by optimization? I know everyone has an idea, that is making use of the best or the most effective use of the situation or the resources or whatever it is. We have to do something in the best possible way with what all are with us, how much resources we have or what the current situation is. So making the best out of them, that we can call as the linear programming. So it's the simplest way to perform the optimization with the constraints. We have some constraints, it may be resources, it may be some situation or anything. So we have to make the most out of it. That is what is called the linear programming. So let's see what is linear programming in detail. Okay. So here, in linear programming, the main part is formulation of the process of translating a real-world problem into a linear program. The important part or the main area is the formulation. In this formulation part, what we are going to do is we are taking a real world situation or real life situation and we are translating it into the linear program. Then we are planning to solve this linear program. So the main or the important part or the toughest part here is the formulation. Transforming how we can convert a real world situation into a linear program. Once the real world situation or the real world problem or the condition is being converted into a linear program, it is easy to solve it. There are different methods to solve the linear programming you have studied. Maybe using graphs, by matrices, by computer programs, we can easily solve the program. The main issue here is the formulation. How we can convert the real world situation or how we are understanding the situation into a linear program, how we are mapping it into a linear program. So in linear programming, we'll be having an objective function. We have the linear or non-linear or equalities or inequalities. There are different equalities or inequalities will be there. We have some constraints or restrictions. And we have to find the or make out of the maximum, make the maximum out of that situation. So let me tell you an example. Maybe in a shop or something, we have some resources. We need to make use of that resources, optimum utilization of the resources we need to do to achieve the better result. So for a company or a shop, the maximum objective, the best objective is to make the maximum profit. And the maximum profit with the minimum cost, that will be the objective. So you have to concentrate on that. So it's the method of optimization where we are translating a real world problem into a linear program and then solving it. and we are given certain constraints or certain restrictions, and we have to work within or understanding that constraints and that restrictions. So I think you have an idea about what the equation is. Actually, solving this linear program is pretty easy. We have to formulate the linear program, then we have to solve it. That is the little bit toughest part in the linear program solving. And linear programming, as we have already mentioned, it's the tool for solving the optimization problems. There is linear programming everywhere around us. Maybe in our personal life, in our professional firms, everywhere we are using this linear programming, and we don't know what it is linear programming or not. That is the situation. So let me tell you a simple example. I'm going to work every day, and I'm driving from my home to work. So the main objective or the aim is I want to take the shortest route and I need to get into my office. Here in this concept also we are using the linear programming. Or let us consider maybe I'm working as say team, maybe in an IT firm or something. So I'm having a product delivery. I need to deliver a project maybe within 1 week or something. So I have a team with me. So I'll come up with the strategies to make them efficiently work so that I can deliver that project on time. So all these comes under the linear programming. All these can be considered as examples of linear programming. So now let's see the real life examples of linear programming. Very, very interesting examples. So I think you have studied about this in your school days itself. The knapsack problem or the traveling salesman's problem. The simple example our teacher used to tell us. So let's see this example in detail, and after this real life examples, you will have an idea about what this linear programming concept is going to be. So let's say I'm a delivery man and I'm working in a firm. So from that firm, daily I used to collect some packets and I used to deliver it to some destinations. This is my job. The same example we have told earlier. So here the delivery man needs to deliver 6 packages in a day. And there is a warehouse. The warehouse is located at the point A. And I need to deliver this 6 packages to 6 different locations. So just have a look at the diagram. Here you can see the warehouse as denoted as A. And there are different locations which is denoted as X, Y, Z, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. So these are the destinations where I have to deliver these packets. And in that diagram, you can see the different number of lines. And there are some values written here, 12, 15, 25. There are some values which are written on these lines. So these values denote the distance between those 2 points. So let's say between A and V, it is 15. Between V and X, it is 12. Between V and Z, it is 20. So it denotes or it gives the distance. So now from A, I'm collecting all the 6 packets. I want to deliver it to these 6 locations or these 6 destinations. So what I'll be thinking of after coming out of my warehouse with those packages? There are 2 things the delivery man or the person should consider before delivering it. He wants to go through the shortest route, that you all know. And we have to save time and also fuel. So these are some of the constraints we need to take care here. So how we will be solving this question? We are using linear programming to solve this question. We have already mentioned that we have some restrictions or we have some conditions. We are going to analyze it and we are going to solve it. So I think the condition is given, or what is given in the question is clear to everyone. We need to deliver these packets to the different locations, and I want to save the fuel and time, and also I want to take the shortest route. Then only it will be saved. Okay, so let's see how we can do it. So I'm going to analyze all the routes, and I'm going to end with the shortest route. So I'll be analyzing all the routes one by one, and I'll come up with the shortest route. So this technique of finding the shortest route, we can call it as linear programming. There are different ways to solve this question. Maybe let's say example, So in this diagram, maybe from A to X, we can go different ways. Through V, we can go, and also through other ways, we can reach X. So here, as a delivery person, I have to analyze which is the shortest route. I have to calculate it, and then I have to come up with the shortest route. So this technique of choosing the shortest route, we can call it as the linear programming. And we have the different routes with us, or the different paths with us. From these paths, we need to choose the best one, and we can call this as operation research. Operation research is simply the decision-making part. So with that decision-making, we'll be taking one among those solutions and we'll be operating it, or we'll be working with it. So now I think you have an idea about what the linear programming is. This knapsack problem or the traveling salesman problem or the optimization problem, and you can solve it using the linear programming technique. Now let's see another example, one more example. So it's a simple example. Now we are going to manufacture some chocolates. So here we have a chocolate manufacturing company, and we are planning to produce, and this company is producing two types of chocolates. Let's say chocolate A and chocolate B. And behind the criteria, it is given that both these chocolates needs milk and choco only. So we have to manufacture two types of chocolates, A and B. And the ingredients we need is milk and choco. And it is also specified that for each unit of the chocolate A and B, we need to have the ingredients as, for A, it is 1 unit of milk and 3 units of choco. For B, it is 1 unit of milk and 2 units of choco. So we have the count with us. We are going to analyze this equation. For chocolate A, we need 1 unit of milk and 3 units of choco. For B, we need 1 unit of milk and 2 units of choco. And what is left in the kitchen is 5 units of milk and 12 units of choco. So we have a clear idea of this equation. How the chocolate A and B is made, and what are the minimum requirements, and what is left out in the kitchen. Okay. Now, this is a company, so we need to think about the cost per production. So the profit it is given as rupees 6 per unit is sold and rupees 5 per unit be sold. Now comes the question. Here, this company wishes to maximize its profit. So how many units of A and B should it produce respectively? So here we are given a certain criteria and certain restrictions, and we are given a situation. Sorry. So now we need to make the best out of the situation. That is, we need to answer how many units of A and B can be produced. As the intention of the company is to make the maximum profit. So let's have a small idea. So we are analyzing what is given in the question. I just formulated it as a table, so that will be easy. Okay. So for chocolate A, I need to have 1 unit of milk, 3 units of choco, and for the profit per unit is rupees 6. For chocolate B, the milk is 1 unit, choco is 2 units, and the profit per unit is rupees 5. Now we are going to solve this question mathematically. We are going to generate the equation, or going to formulate the equation in order to solve this question. So the total number of units of A, we can consider it as X. Similarly, the total number of units of B, Y. And the maximum or the total profit, we can call it as Z. So now we are going to come up with the equations used to solve these questions. After analyzing this situation, we are going to come up with the equations. For that only, we are giving the, or we are putting the variables here. So total number of units by A equal to X, and total number of units by B equal to Y. What is the total profit? We denote it as Z. So what will be the total profit of the company? How we can find the profit? Number of units into the price per unit, or the profit per unit. Okay. So number of units of A and B multiplied by the profits per unit. So we can simply derive the equation, or simply arrange the equation of profit as Z is equal to 6x plus 5y, where X denotes the A and Y denotes the Z. So the aim here, we have analyzed it and written it in an equation form like we need the maximum of Z, which is equal to 6x plus 5y. And now we are concentrating on the requirements, which is needed to produce the stocklates. For the units A and B, it is given that it only needs 1 unit of milk and the total amount of milk available is 5 units. So the total unit of milk available in the kitchen is 5 units. So how we can write the equation? We can write the equation as x plus y is less than or equal to 5. Both A and B requires 1 unit of milk and the total amount is 5 units. So we can formulate the equation as x plus y equal to or less than 5. Now moving on to the next situation. So the chocolates A and B, they needs 2 units and 3 units of choco. So the total available amount of units, it is given as 12 units. Chocolate A, we need 3 units and chocolate B, we need 2 units. And the total units available is 12. So now we can formulate the another equation. So 3x plus 2y less than or equal to 12. So from the whole theory, from the whole situation, from the whole criteria, all the restrictions we have arrived at 2 equations. X plus y less than or equal to 5, 3x plus 2y less than or equal to 12. Now what we need to do? For the company to make the maximum profit, the above inequalities we have find out, it needs to be satisfied. So this is the way we are applying linear programming in real life. So we are just rearranging everything, or we are just optimizing or trying to get the maximum out of what is there. Whether it can be profit or it can be cost. So it varies depending on what is the situation. So I think all this example is clear. Now we will move on to the next section. And I can tell you one more thing. In this time, the significance of linear programming is very high. Because there exist n number of real world problems. So with the evaluation of the existing resources, we are going to come up with the solutions for this. And also the linear programming is used to solve this optimization programs in different industry, that too in diverse manner. Maybe it is used in the marketing, in finance industry, in advertising, food and agriculture, engineering, manufacturing, energy. Then in microeconomics also the linear programming is being used. In the transportation, planning, production, all the industries are using this linear programming. So one more example I can tell you. Actually, this is a company. I want to maximize the profit. And the similar example we have already looked into. So here we want to maximize the profit. So here the company can use the linear expression of what? How much raw material the company is having. How much time it is having. Whether all the machines are working properly. Is there any issue with any machine? And how much amount of product needs to be produced. All these factors need to be considered. Then only we could take a decision on what all things we can do to maximize the profit. All this decision making can be done with the help of linear programming. So today we are going to concentrate mostly on these 4 applications. So the 4 applications are food and agriculture, transportation, manufacturing industry, energy industry. So the linear programming is used in different fields. Today we are going to concentrate on food and agriculture, transportation, manufacturing industry, then energy industry. So how this linear programming is affecting the food and agricultural industry? How this is helping the farmers in their production process? So the linear programming can help the farmers in taking decisions in different areas. So with these decisions or with these solutions, they can attain maximum profit or maximum revenue. how they are producing the crops, how the resources can be allocated, how they are performing the irrigation. Everything can be done by this linear programming. Linear programming helps a person or the farmer to understand about what crops they should grow, how much quantity of it they should grow, which type of fertilizers they should use, and everything can be done with the help of this linear programming. Linear programming is playing a vital role in the food and agriculture sector. So these are the different areas that the linear programming is affecting in agriculture. Linear programming is working in agriculture. Crop rotation, feed mix, product transportation, land allocation, water irrigation, crop pattern. Everywhere you can see the use of linear programming. So linear programming can help increase the productivity, and also it can reduce the wastage. So it is being used in this sector very much. Okay, so let's see all these one by one. Yeah. So in agricultural issues, all these are resolved through the linear programming. So the first one is feed mix problem. So what do you mean by this feed mix problem? So for giving the feeds, what we have to, there are some criteria which we need to satisfy. There will be some nutritional requirements, some energy requirements. All these we need to satisfy. So the linear programming model, what it will do is it will formulate the feed mixes. They have to, it should satisfy minimum cost. It should satisfy the energy. It should satisfy the nutritional requirements and everything. And also these feed can vary depending upon the season, depending upon the area. We know that for each areas, this will be different. So depending upon the area and depending upon these seasons or what the climate changes are, these feeds will be different. And also sometimes there will be limited availability of these feeds. So this everything can be considered using the linear programming technique. Now moving on to the second one, it is the optimizing of crops pattern. Optimizing crops pattern. Which pattern of crops you should follow? Which method you should use to increase the agricultural production? The production planning pattern for the food crops, everything will be dealt by the linear programming, so that the farmers will get more profit, or they'll get more out of their work. And also whether they have to utilize the natural fertilizers or how they can improve their soil fertility, everything is being dealt by the linear program. The next one is crop rotation pattern. You know what, you all know what crop rotation is, which type of crops we need to cultivate. Maybe based on the weather, based on the land, based on the climate, based on the market, it will be different. So there are many criteria that are affecting these plans. So the linear programming helps to identify which among them is the proper one and help the farmers to reach their optimum goal. Linear programming can help to increase the volume of the productivity, the income, and also it can make use of the existing resources. Now the next is land allocation and the optimization. Here in the land allocation, what we are going to do is we are going to take an area and we are going to divide it and allocate it to different types of crop. This is being done to improve the profit of the farm or profit of the farmer. We are going to divide the farmland into different sections and we are going to cultivate different types of crops in that farmland. So here the best allocation of the land can be done by using the linear programming. Whether we have to cultivate maybe rice, pulses, maize, wheat, which crop we have to cultivate, we can choose it using the process of the linear program. Then agriculture product transportation. We have already seen what is the transportation in the traveling salesman's program. So how much transportation is important here? How much the agricultural products transportation is important here? We need to have the proper transportation, then only it will be benefiting our farmers. Then the irrigation. So irrigation is also can be decisions in irrigation sector or the farm irrigation can also be taken using the linear programming. So we should have a proper irrigation or proper analysis of this. So there are some areas where water scarcity is there. So we have to plan the crops according to that. So all this can be done. All these are the areas that are affected by the linear programming. These areas can be helped by the concept of linear programming. The farmers can get or farmers can attain very help. So these are the applications in the food sector. Now we are moving on to the dietary. What is meant by dietary? The linear programming, it can act as a powerful tool or a powerful support for the dietary meal. Here we are having some nutritional requirements and we have some foods that are available as very cheap. So we can just rearrange them or we can just analyze it and make a combination of those foods. So both the conditions can be met. There is not much amount for those foods also and it will be satisfying all our nutritional requirements and no deficiency is occurring. So in the dietary field also we are using this linear programming. So this is all about the applications or the areas where linear programming is affecting in the food and agricultural sector. Now we are moving on to the transportation optimization. This concept you have already seen in the real life example we have discussed today. Okay. So transportation model or the transportation optimization, we can call this as an application of the linear programming. Here, the similar concept is from a supply center or from the factories, we are taking the packages or the foods that are produced or anything to the locations which we can call them as destinations. So here, the transportation optimization mainly focusing on reducing the cost, reducing the distribution cost of the system. It needs to get the overall distribution cost reduced. One interesting factor I want to tell you is that, reducing this transportation cost can have a significant impact in the working of the company, any firm. Reducing the transportation cost can affect the company's bottom line performance also. So a research shows that about 5% reduction in the transportation cost, we can consider it as an impact of 30% increase in the sales. A 5% decrease or reduction in the transportation cost means 30% increase in the sales. So now you have an idea how much this transportation is affecting the performance of a company. 30% increase in sales is a good one. So we have to, we can consider this transportation optimization as a means of sustaining the cost savings. So this should be used in almost all the fields, almost all the companies who are working on this transportation. So we have already understood that this improvement in the transportation can lead to better service at another levels in our company. So in this, what all things are linear programming model concentrating? First one is reducing the shipping cost. And also we need to consider whether all the destinations are receiving their products correctly. And also all the transportations are working with maximum capacity. So all these points needs to be considered while we are working for reducing the transportation cost. So linear programming model helps to do that. It will minimize the shipping cost and also it will meet the demand of the persons and it will not exceed the maximum capacity. It will try to not exceed the maximum capacity of the system. In most of our airlines are using this linear programming model. We don't have an idea for the scheduling of the pilots or for the flights and all, they are using this. Maybe for each flights, the customer demands will be, during some seasons, it will be high. For the seat prices will be high. So based on that, we are using optimization in these airlines also. In any transportation sector, we can easily use this method. So we are going to do optimization through the means of linear programming. It can increase our airlines efficiency, it can decrease our expenses, and thus in turn, it can benefit our system, benefit our company. We can use that expense for some other purpose. It's also being used in any other transportation methods, the bus routes, the train routes, everywhere we are using this linear programming. through the linear programming, we are doing the optimization, making the best out of it. Okay. So these are the applications, or these are the areas. We saw the food and agriculture, and the second one was transportation optimization. Now we'll move on to the energy industry. So what all things are happening? What all are happening in the energy industry? We know that everything is developing, and the need for energy is also growing. In all our systems, the need for energy is getting faster. There is more energy demand. So we need to concentrate on efficiently utilizing the energy resources that we have. As the demand increases, everything increases. So we need to concentrate or efficiently use these resources. Or maybe we have to replace these resources with some other resources to achieve the sustainability. So the effective management of energy systems is critically important. So this energy can be managed by using the linear programming. Here also we are going to perform this optimization. So here, these are the 2 to 3 things we are doing. First one is efficient use of the resources for the corporates. We can use the energy resources efficiently for different systems. And also it is adding value to the economies at the macro level. From the environmental perspective or for the sustainable development, this energy efficiency or the effective utilization of this energy is important. So this is what is happening in the energy industry. And these are all the problems that are solved, or these are all the problems in the energy management that are being solved by the linear program. We can increase the energy efficiency. If we are using it correctly, there will not be any loss. So there is no concept of energy loss is there. And maybe we can find out some alternative sources of energy for using. And we can plan for energy sources and all. Actually, we have a very great idea of linear programming to use, how to use these resources and on which situation. By analyzing all the situation or all the criteria we have, we are coming up with a plan. So we can plan for further projects and all. It could be benefiting the different corporations and all. And also we can go with the government policies and all that things. So this is all about the energy sector. Now we could move on to the most interesting part. Now we could move on to the most interesting part. It is the manufacturing industry. Manufacturing and service industry is making use of the linear programming on a regular basis. In all the tasks in those industries, this linear programming is being used. The linear programming is being used in analyzing the supply chain operations. In the shelf space optimization for the delivery routes and for machine learning. Now we can see each of them in detail. This manufacturing and service industry is using this linear program on day-to-day basis for these 4 areas. Analyzing the supply chain operation, optimizing delivery routes, shelf space optimization, machine learning. So the first one is supply chain. So our motive with the linear programming is to maximize the efficiency with minimum operation cost. So here we can choose about our workforce. Maybe we can plan about our workforce, how the storage should be. Everything can be planned using this linear programming model. The manufacturer can take decisions about the employees, about their workforce, about the storage layout and everything. So for supply chain management, it is very effective in using this linear programming model. And also one more thing is that the cost of the transportation in the supply chain, it varies from one point to another. That is from a source to destination, and it will be varying linearly with the amount of data or amount of content, the quantity we are supplying. It is varying linearly. The second example is shelf space automation. This is being used in all our supermarkets. Maybe Reliance, Big Bazaar, Walmart, all these are using this shelf space optimization. So we know now there are large amount of products. So we want to understand what is the customer's perspective. So we have to understand the customer's perspective and then we have to arrange this. Here we can make use of the linear programming. So we are thinking about the customer's shopping pattern, customer's mind, and then we are arranging these things. Then we are strategically placing these things. So the analyzing the customer's pattern, it is also based on the linear programming only. So whatever objective is to make it easy for the customers, maybe to locate and also to select their right products. So there are some constraints here. It may be the number of shelves available. There will be limited shelf space. The number of products available, how much variety of the same product is there. All these are the factors we need to consider. So it plays a vital role in the shelf space optimization. Now, the next one is optimizing delivery routes. The FedEx or the Amazon, they are using this. And there are some specialized algorithms in the area of linear programming. We have the clustering and greedy algorithm and all. With these algorithms, we are finding out the best route. So here we have to consider the two factors, the time and the cost. This example is similar to that of the traveling salesman problem we have already seen. Now moving on to the next example, it's the machine learning. We never expected linear programming to be a part of machine learning. So here we have the system and our system is fed to the mathematical model of a function. We have some input data and from that we are predicting the values of the unknown. We are giving some test data and from that it is predicting the values. Here also we are making use of the linear programming. It's the fundamental part of the linear programming being used here in this machine learning concept. So these are the important areas where this linear programming is being used in a day-to-day basis. Now I'll tell you some more areas. It is being used in finance, marketing, media selection and all. So the whole finance of a company, maybe the budget, the set, the planning for any year, everything can be done with the help of the linear programming. In the marketing sector also, in the media selection, at which budget we need to give an advertisement to a particular media. All this can be done with the help of the linear programming. So these are some of the areas where linear programming is being used in a day-to-day basis. And we have mostly concentrated on the 4 application areas: transportation, food and agriculture, energy, then manufacturing. So now let's move on to the next topic. Yeah, I'll tell you one more interesting thing. Where we are using this, which careers are using this. As a business manager, as a financial analyst, as a computer programmer, as a researcher, as an architect, as a builder, as a healthcare professional, everyone is using the concept of linear programming. In one or the other task they are performing. So we were not able to understand that we are using linear programming to solve this particular criteria. Now, I think you all should have an idea about what the linear programming is and where we are using this. So that's about the linear programming section. Now we'll be moving with the vectors. You have studied the vector concept in your physics and also mathematics subject. So vectors are very important and it is also being used in different fields. So what do you mean by a vector? It's the representation of a quantity. We are representing vector or an entity in both the direction and the magnitude. You have studied the definition in your school. The representation of a quantity in the mathematical or the geometrical way, that we can call it as vector. Where an entity with both direction and magnitude can be called as a vector. We have some examples of the quantities you have studied in your school. We have velocity, force, acceleration, weight, momentum. All these are examples of vectors. So now the different areas where vectors are being used. These are the areas where vectors are being used for ages. For gaming, in the military sector, in the roller coaster, in the most of the amusement parks, in the sports, crosswind, everywhere we are using the concept of vectors. So now let's see one by one in detail. Okay. So for gaming, so I think all of you have played this game. So for games, these vectors can be used to store their position, direction, or velocity. So in this game, we need to know how far the object is, how much velocity or how much force we need to give. And also we need to know about the direction. So vectors are being used here to find out the position, direction, or velocity. So for the position vector, we need to find out how much far the object is. For the velocity vector, we need to find out how much force or how much time it will take to be there. Direction vector indicates the direction. So just a simple example of where the vector is being used in this concept. We have never thought of we are using vectors here. Now the next example is military. Maybe we have seen this cannons in many videos and all, but we have never thought of it. This is like vectors, or here we are using the concept of vectors. The angle of the fire, the range, the firepower, the mobility, the rate of the fire, everything. This is mostly the cannons, just a part of military, which is being used used according to the need. There are auto cannons. It is being used by maybe by fighter pilots and all. This has developed to a long extent, so being used by the fighter pilots. There are radars and all. So this is another field where the vectors are being used. We have never expected these fields working with the vectors or utilizing the concept of vectors to work. So the next one is the roller coaster. So this you might have seen this in the amusement parks, or maybe we all have a ride on it. So this motion in the roller coaster or this is responsible, or it is due to the Earth's gravitational pull. So the motion is occurring due to the gravitational pull of the Earth. First, we need to just give a power to make it run. So it is pulled by a chain on the top, and once it reaches the first big hill, once it covers the first big hill, then it will move. It will start moving and covering the location. So it will go higher and higher, and the potential energy keeps growing until it reach the maximum. So by that time, it will have the amount of work the roller coaster has done. By that time, it will have the energy and it will be falling down from the other side of the hill. So it builds up enough kinetic energy, and then it will be going to the remainder side of the other portion of the rider. So in this roller coaster also, we are using the concept of the vectors. Now, the most important part is the sports. We have never thought of in sports vectors are there. In the cricket, football, basketball, or golf, we are using this vectors. It is being used to find out the direction or the trajectory of the ball. Let's say an example for maybe I'm playing cricket and I'm giving a shot. I hit a shot. So there are different possibilities. Maybe it is an out, maybe it will go for 6 or something. So it will be depends on how much angle the batsman is giving the shot and how much velocity with which the ball hits it. So we have the two components, and we know that we can represent it by vector. So for a player to score a goal in the football, the direction or the trajectory of the ball needs to be identified. So these are used in different sports fields also. We can relate it to different sports fields also. So now the next application is crosswind. I think you all have heard about the term crosswind and you are familiar with it. So it's the type of the wind that is having a perpendicular component to the direction of the travel. So for example, when a plane is coming to landing, it sometimes feels difficult to land due to this. And there are some accidents could occur due to this. So here, the pilot is using these vectors to find out the resultant velocity and the direction. So the concept of vectors is also being used to in this landing of the planes. So there are different fields where we are using the vectors. So these are all maybe we can call them as the daily life applications. Now we'll move on to some other applications of vectors. So vectors can be used in different ways in the field of computer science. For data representation, for model representation, learning and training, statistical machine learning, all these fields use the vectors. So let's say the concept of array. What is array? We are using to, I know you have an idea about what is array. So we are using arrays to store the data and that too in an organized manner. So vectors, we can call them as the mathematical equivalent of array. It is used in AI or machine learning. So for the data representation, we can use vectors to represent the data. Maybe a one-dimensional or maybe 2D or in the form of matrix. We can use the vectors here. In the model representation, the vectors are used to store the AI models. We have the deep learning network and all those. So vectors are used to simplify the interactions and we use vectors to study them. Vectors can be used to study them. Then for the learning and training, we have some algorithms for the data reduction or the classifications, and we are using vectors for learning and training. And also we are using this in the machine learning. We have already discussed it. So we are using the vectors in the machine learning for the statistical machine learning purposes and all. Now, maybe we could look at a little bit of physics also. It's there in the wave propagation. We know that the waves can be longitudinal or the transverse waves. So we have the wave vector concept with us. Wave vector, we can call this as a vector from which we can identify about a wave or from which we can find out what a wave is. So the magnitude and the direction of the wave propagation, we can found this by using the vectors. It's a very simple concept. So here also we are seeing the use of the vectors. So I'll give you a simple example, a one-dimensional equation. The function of xt is equal to a cos of kx minus omega t plus phi. So considering this equation here, a is the amplitude, x is the position vector, t is the time, k is the magnitude of the wave vector. Then we can find that the direction of the wave vector is positive, is the positive x direction. In these waves also, they are using the concept of the vector for the magnitude and the direction. In the quantum mechanics also, we are using these vectors. So in the quantum mechanics, we are studying about the behavior of matter and light. Maybe on atomic or subatomic levels. We are studying about the electrons, protons, neutrons, about the constituents of the molecules. They are also moving. Here also we can see the idea of vectors. Here we have the linear vector space. So we can represent the coordinates as maybe matrices or the wave functions. So the quantum mechanical operators, we can represent them as the wave functions. Here also we are using this vector space or the vector. So we can see the use in different areas, maybe from small applications to the fields we have never expected that we were using it. So I think everyone has got some idea about the linear programming and vectors. So that's all about today's session. And thank you. And now we can have a discussion. So if you're having anything to discuss or any doubts, you can just type it in the chat box. Okay. And 2 to 3 things I need to tell you. The video of the previous sessions is there in our website, foundation program website, Amrita Foundation program website. The previous sessions videos are uploaded. So you can go and check it out. And the attendance form will be shared in our chat list. So please fill the attendance form. And also one more thing. So yesterday night, I received maybe so many mails and I'm not able to reply to all those. So I'm so sorry, I'll be replying it within 1 to 2 days. Okay. So I think Hari sir is here. Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello, ma'am. How are you?
Yeah. Everything is fine.
Fine. Hello to students. Like, you can ask your queries now. And
yeah. And also, Nija, please give the attendance sheet. Is she here?
Yeah, Nija ma'am have uploaded the link.
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
form.
Nija ma'am have uploaded it already, so you can fill it. Yeah, I have already typed my mail ID here. If you're having any doubts, you can just mail me directly and you can just type the doubts also. We can have a discussion.
So is there any other queries now whether we could address now? What is the scope of machine learning and artificial intelligence in the future? To be frank, at least for this decade, it will be the most important subjects because machine learning and artificial intelligence can literally be applied anywhere, irrespective of your department, even in chemical science, chemical engineering. If you take aerospace, if you take example of like art subjects like math, psychology, physics, whatever it is, so every subject is going to have the influence of machine learning and AI, particularly even in mechanical engineering field. So if you're aspiring to become a mechanical engineer, you must it's always suggested to learn ML and AI.
Yeah, so I have shared the website of Engineering Foundation program. You can just visit on it and you can get the videos there. Okay, please see the chat box.
There is a query like, is vectors be used in computer science? Because not exactly the programming, but of course vectors are highly used in certain computer learning technology, something like for example, machine learning is a subsidiary of computer science, of course. And in machine learning, we do use vectors like whether it can be a 2D array or 3D array.
Yeah, it is used in graphics and all.
And even the matrices and vectors of something.
Yeah.
Sorry?
It is
Yeah,
used in graphics. Yeah, computer graphics, we are making use of these vectors a lot.
yes, of course. And even like I said, what I was saying is that in machine learning, for converting the images into binary codes and the videos into binary codes, those kind of transitions require high level of vector as well as the matrices, and it's obviously it's a great use in computer science course, of course.
Someone has asked about business analyst.
Business analysis completely
Yeah.
out of scope of computer science course, of course.
Yeah.
It is highly related to MBA side.
So they work with organizations just to improve their processes, the systems and all.
Of course, Harshita, those topics will go deeper in BTech. So don't need to be worried because this foundation course will also be a great stepping stone for you, as well as in your first year, you'll be having the most of the important 11th and 12th concepts. Again, you'll be learning in your first year. So the first and second semester will completely be on your 12 topics. And of course, you can tune it up. And in the forthcoming years, like in third year, fourth year, you'll be highly, I mean, your math and science skills will be highly required, and we will be preparing you for that. So no need to be worried.
We just plan to tell you that we are going to use this physics and mathematics till the end of our life. We are going to study this deeper each day. Is mechanical engineering going to be like mechatronics? Someone has asked it.
Not
So
at all.
basically,
So,
Harris sir is a mechanical engineer, so he's
yeah,
the person to answer.
mechanical engineering is completely different than mechatronics. So mechatronics is something, a combination of mechanical engineering and electronics engineering. So in mechanical engineering course, in all the 4 years, you will be learning only about mechanical and material stuff, designing, as well as more about fluid dynamics and aerodynamics, but not in mechatronics course, of course, because mechatronic course, as I said, it is combination of few subjects taken from mechanical engineering and few other important subjects taken from electronic engineering. So it's kind of a hybrid. So it can't, like mechanical engineering can't transition to mechatronics, but of course those two will be separate entities.
Can
Any
an
other queries?
electrical or computer student study theoretical physics like in particle or quantum physics after his or her BTech? Yeah, of course, you can go for your PGs or something in that.
There is a question like how to stay updated about latest technological advancement in regular basis. Of course, sign up with few newspapers and news articles in the websites. You know, if you search it out in Google, there are lots and lots of sources, something like magazines, e-magazines, and e-newsletters. So you can always search for NVIDIA's newsletter, Google Technologies newsletter, and of course you can there are other private entities also, something like AASSA. So it is actually a website where you can where the latest technology and research work will be posted up regularly. And also, of course, I would really suggest you Telegram is the best resource for learning and stay updated about the latest technologies like AI and as well as about robotics. So it's my own personal experience. There is a question like data science versus
Uh,
artificial intelligence. Of course, artificial intelligence is something a separate entity, and data science is separate. You know, in data science, you'll be dealing with most about the data, like how to obtain data and how to process the data. Like you will be, of course, cleaning up the data. You will be you will be provided with we call it as a term as the big data. So you will be provided with a huge large amount of data, and you will be needing to clean it up and process it in a very less time. So that's what the data science is all about. And in AI it's completely like to be so simple, like AI data science is a subset of AI. With the help of data science, AI can be achieved more efficiently. So that's how the relationship between both are.
Someone is asking, is vector used in architecture? So vectors are there in architecture. Actually, an architect, maybe he is using those trigonometric functions to deal with the vectors. So you have never thought of an architect using these trigonometric functions. He is making use of the trigonometric functions in order to work with the vectors, and he need to compute about the load, about the forces acting, and all those things. So every field we need some basic math and some basic physics. That's for sure. And among this, math is important.
Aishwarya have asked, will there be more physics to study in computer science engineering? Of course not, because you know, like maybe in the first year you will be learning about few physics concepts, but in the future, I mean, in the second or third, fourth year, you won't be learning about physics, because most of the subjects will be covered only about the current computer science curriculum, as well as the futuristic topics. I mean, it's all related to computer science, so you won't be studying more about physics in the CS engineering.
So chemistry, actually, we need less chemistry. For engineers, we need only less amount of chemistry.
There is a query like, is Java a good language to start? So to start with programming, I would really suggest you to go with C or C++, because those two are the mother and father of computer programming. Of course, Java is widely used everywhere, but it's always, if you are a beginner, it's always good to start with C or C++.
While starting with C or C++, you can have a great idea about the base. So then you can easily get adapted to all the other other programs.
There is another question like, how, I mean, in the 2025, what are the computer science technology that will be booming up? So that's pretty unexpected, and we can't determine it literally. So So I would really go with my own perspective thing because a few technologies like holograms and of course
5G
artificial
will be there.
intelligence. Yeah, I
5G.
mean, to be frank, like it will be more than 5G because we are
Yeah.
currently experiencing 5G, but
But
it
we
is
don't know
not yet.
whether we'll be experiencing it. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe 5 years later there will be 6G, 7G because it's all like I said earlier. I mean, in the past session, 6G and 7G are in the research state, and probably by next year, China will be implementing it in their military purposes. So that's something unpredictable thing.
So the electronics engineers can do coding or not. It's very easy to do the coding. Electronics engineers are having coding also. It's not like which branch has coding. If you have an interest, you can easily develop that coding ability.
Because like electronics and electrical engineers, you surely will be needing of codes because when you deal with some microelectronics or microcontrollers, say for example Arduino or Raspberry Pi and etc. So all these electronic components will be required a high level of programming knowledges. Something like we generally the most of the time it's about Python and C++.
So I think almost all the questions are answered. So,
Yes.
and all of you have shared that your attendance. All of you have given your attendance, I think. So now let's wind up the session. And once again, I thank you all for attending this session. And if you have any feedback, you can just directly send us. So hope to see you tomorrow.
Yes, thank you from my end also. And tomorrow we'll be discussing more about laser technology and as well as about the quantum computing. So I'll be discussing about those basic topics and as well as few related courses and few resources also.
And one more thing, you can
So
get
I'll
these
be providing.
slides and get
So
this.
do attend tomorrow's
Okay,
class.
sorry. Yeah, and you can get these slides and these presentations in the Amrita Foundation Program website. So please do check it. Okay. Okay then. Thank you all.
Sure. Thank you.